What's up everyone, it's Dakota and welcome back to another Pioneer video, and today we're going to be looking at a channel favorite and a deck that is kind of a guilty pleasure of mine for Pioneer, just because its play patterns and everything are super fun and make you feel really good when you kind of get to do the thing that the deck is trying to do. And of course, before we get into that thing, I want to talk about potentially subscribing to the channel and ringing the notification bell so you know when videos like this and other modern and other essay type videos get posted, as well as going to the description down below and joining the Discord server to suggest video ideas, talk about Magic, all that great stuff. Really sweet. The Discord server's been doing really well. The channel's been doing very well. So if you want to be a part of all the growth and everything and get in on the ground floor of what we're building here, of course, subscribe, ring notification bell, join the Discord server, all that stuff. So, what exactly makes this Izzet Phoenix decks the the staple of the channel, or the I guess the fun deck to play? So it's this card, Arclight Phoenix. Basically, what the deck is based around, if you couldn't tell by the title of it. So it's a 4-mana 3/2 with Flying Haste, kind of garbage, honestly, just by that alone. But thankfully, there's this paragraph of text that makes it a very annoying card to deal with, which says that at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you've cast 3 or more instant or sorcery spells this turn, Arclight Phoenix comes back from the graveyard to the battlefield, and of course with that having haste, you're able to attack with it right away. So your deck is essentially based around just getting these bad boys in the graveyard and returning them, usually either on the same turn or, on a different turn where you kind of set up. You also have Thing in the Ice, which is a card I will mention. While a non-bow with Arclight Phoenix directly, it does kind of stop a lot of offense from the aggressive decks just by being able to block early, and of course just through naturally casting spells, which you're going to do to return Arclight Phoenixes. You will eventually flip it, bounce a bunch of things to your opponent's hand, and then you'll have a 7/8 that either gets to rumble in for 7 let the turn that it transforms, or you can even hold it back for some other haste threats and try to set up for some Arclight Phoenixes or something like that, or set up for some crazy turns, which we'll get into kind of as we go on. So super easy. We're playing 8 creatures. Now we have 33 spells to look at, and they're all going to feed into this game plan of essentially getting cards into our graveyard so we can get back these Phoenixes and transform this Thing in the Ice. So 1-mana spells, we have Consider, Fiery Impulse, Lightning Axe, Opt, Spell Pierce, and Spike Field Hazard. Consider is probably one of your best cantrips, considering that Expressive Iteration is banned in the format. Consider just getting to surveil 1, mill a card, and then the potential to mill a card and then draw a card. This potentially puts 2 cards in the graveyard. Obviously, the best case scenario, it's an Arclight Phoenix on top. You can easily just bin it away, no problem, no questions asked, and draw a fresh card. In some of the other cases, you can fuel these other delve spells, which we'll get to here in a minute, and Treasure Cruise and Temporal Trespass. So it just kind of does a little bit of everything. You are casting cheap spells to potentially get Arclight Phoenixes back, while also setting up your deck for future turns to end up getting back, hopefully 2, 3, or 4 Phoenixes in a later turn. Fiery Impulse is essentially your main removal spell alongside Lightning Axe. So Fiery Impulse a lot of the time is going to end up dealing 3 damage. Dealing 2 damage in the early game, especially against mono red, is fine. Unfortunately, it doesn't scale up big enough to kill, their 4 and 5 toughness creatures, but 1 mana, deal 3 damage is going to take care of a lot of their elves in the early game, while also some of the other aggressive decks, like the Boros Pia deck, are going to, are fine options for a 3 damage removal spell, and even 2 damage in the early turn is fine as well. Lightning Axe is definitely a way that you upgrade to get rid of some of these bigger threats. You either have to discard a card or pay 5 mana, which is totally fine when, this is a discard outlet for Arclight Phoenixes. Of course, just getting rid of other spells in your deck, so then you could turn on future Fiery Impulses, fuel your delve spells and the like. So definitely a very versatile removal spell with not really much of a downside in terms of what your deck is trying to do, especially when getting rid of a lot of the bigger threats from your opponent's side. Opt, unfortunately, is basically Consider, but with Scry instead of Surveil. This is fine. This is still a really good cantrip. It's cheap. You get to essentially look at 2 cards. And the worst case scenario, in the best case, you find the card you want on top, and then you end up drawing it. Fuels the graveyard, fuels the delve spells, gets back Phoenixes, takes counters off a thing in the ice. You kind of see where this is going, right? Like, just these cheap spells end up interacting very well with the threats that we're trying to put into play, or even like finding set threats to then set up those turns where we can either get rid of them or end up transforming them. 2 Spell Pierce, 2 Spike Field Hazard. I feel like Spike Field Hazard is definitely a card that probably gets played as a land more often than not, but Spike Field does have like these weird interactions where, like, if you can Fiery Impulse something, or like Fiery Impulse a Old Growth Troll from Mono Green, or one of their Cavaliers you hit with a Lightning Axe, and then you follow it up with like a Spike Field Hazard, not only did you just cast 2 spells, which means like you're a spell away from bringing back an Arclight Phoenix or potentially flipping a thing in the ice, but you end up exiling it, and they don't get their effects of either becoming an aura on enchanting a land in the terms of Old Growth Troll, or getting back a card in terms of the Cavalier Thorn. So definitely a way that you can kind of like cheat on lands while also having some utility as like a spell, and Spike Field Hazard is one of the best ones and continues to see play in these Izzet decks. Spell Pierce is definitely a way that you can interact pretty early, like with your opponent. Just always nice to carry Spell Pierce. Spell Pierce has definitely seen an uptick in like main deck play for a while in both Modern and Pioneer, so it's not really super surprising to see it here. Just given the deck has like the teeniest bit of interaction when it comes to some of the other decks that maybe are trying to like exile its creatures, or do some other unfair things that this deck really can't compete with at the moment. You have your 2 mana spells. You only have 4 of them total: 3 Chart of Course, 1 Galvanic Iteration. A Chart of Course, is 2 mana, draw 2 cards, and then you discard a card unless you attack this turn. So it has some versatility in just getting to play it on turn 2. Maybe discard a Phoenix, dig for 1, so on. And just kind of sculpt your hand and get ready for like a turn 3 or turn 4 where you're just going to kind of go off. Galvanic Iteration is a card that will allow you to copy your next instant sorcery, choose new targets for the copy. This card goes absolutely insane with cards like these Delve spells, which of course we are not there yet, but we will be there soon, I promise. Pieces of the puzzle: you reveal the top 5 cards of your library, you put 2 instant sorcery cards among them in your hand, the rest into your graveyard. That last bit almost being as important, because this card gets to pull double duty. You get to look at 5 cards. You essentially get 2 instant sorceries that are going to affect the 8 creatures in your deck that care about it, and then put the rest in the graveyard, which means that if you ever hit like a Phoenix off this, you're never going to get the option to like select it, at least on Moto, so like that's good. And then of course it's in the graveyard, so then later you just get to flash it back, the Arclight Phoenix, with the other spells that you got from the pieces of the puzzle. And you're playing like 33 spells. I don't know exactly what the odds of missing with the pieces of the puzzle is, but I'd imagine that they are extremely high on just like completely whiffing altogether and just milling 5 cards. But even in that case, it's not the complete worst when you get to Treasure Cruise and Temporal Trespass. We said earlier, following up like a Galvanic Iteration with a Treasure Cruise is insane, because you just end up getting to draw 6 cards for 3 mana. Essentially, like the 2 mana from the Galvanic Iteration and 1 mana ideally from the Treasure Cruise. Getting to draw 6 cards is huge, especially with Treasure Cruise just in itself being able to draw 3 cards. Like, this is a way that you can kind of chain together some of these other, more expensive spells, like following up like Chart of Course with like a Treasure Cruise on turn 4, which will allow you to end up like more than likely playing like an Opt or Consider to get back an Arclight Phoenix. Following that up, you have Temporal Trespass, which essentially for 5 mana, the amount of like a Time Warp, you end up getting a Time Stretch if you pair it with a Galvanic Iteration, is taking 2 extra turns. And this card is in the deck in particular because you just can have some turns where you cast a bunch of spells, get back Arclight Phoenixes, you get back like 3 of them, hit your opponent for 9, take an extra turn, and then you get to untap, hit them for 9 again, and more than likely it will be lethal. So Temporal Trespass is like kind of this like finisher that is contingent on what you have on the board and how you're able to actually win the game from that point, but definitely can just outright win you the game. Like, your opponent taps out to do something, you just, to sweep your board, you end up playing a bunch of spells, play this Temporal Trespass, take an extra turn. You can even play it pre-combat to get back the Phoenixes to attack with, and then untap and then attack again and put the nail in the coffin for the game. Some of the utility lands in this deck, because most of your lands, you have basic islands, you have Riverglade, or the River Glide Path way Spire Bluff Canal, Steam Vents, Stormcarved Coast, which are essentially your blue-red dual lands. You have 2 basic islands, no big deal. You have 2 Hall of the Storm Giants and 1 Otawara Soaring City. Hall of the Storm Giants, you do kind of get some points where like you just get to activate it, and it's very hard for your opponent to interact with it. And being a 7/7, it's usually a lot bigger than some of the other stuff that's on the board. Your opponent either ends up trading a decent amount of creatures minus their mono green, or just a bunch of resources to get rid of it, which of course sets you up to kind of be able to take your time and get Arclight Phoenixes or like a Thing in the Ice going, and then cantrip completely out of the game. Auto War gets rid of some annoying permanents, like the Damping Sphere is pretty annoying. Any of those cards that allow you or basically disallow you from casting multiple spells or punish you for trying to cast multiple spells in a turn is just an easy way that doesn't get hit by those things, and then you can kind of continue to do your thing. The sideboard, basically like a lot of pretty good blue-red cards. You have like Alpine Moon for the Lotus Field decks. You have Braids, Aether Gust for this mainly for like mono green. You have Disdainful Stroke, another card that you can use for like mono green. Negates, Unlicensed Hearse, Young Pyromancer, and Saheeli being like these alternate ways that you can get value from casting those additional spells. I'm surprised that like Third Path Iconoclast isn't here, just because it is like it's a 1/3 instead of a 2/1. A little bit harder to cast, but I mean you have a ton of blue-red dual lands. Like I would imagine that it wouldn't matter, but that's why I make the videos, and I'm not playing in like Pro Tours and stuff. So Crackling Drake is another card that's like a finisher for this deck, that if your opponent has like Graveyard Hate, and like gets rid of all these things, Crackling Drake doesn't care, because its power is also dictated by cards, instants and sorceries that are in exile and in the graveyard. So that is Izzet Phoenix for the Pioneer format. Always a staple, always a fun deck to kind of go over and play, and I look forward to hopefully playing this deck a decent amount, coming this week, and try to get some gameplay of it, of course, and hopefully doing the thing, and hopefully Mono Green decides to cooperate, because that is currently, again, one of the most popular decks, and honestly nauseating to like watch people play. So that's going to do it from this video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like on the video, comment down below if there's a Pioneer deck that you want to see. Subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell so you can find out future videos when they get posted, as they get posted. And follow the links in the description down below to the Discord server. Follow me on Twitch, all that fun stuff. Stay in the loop, as we are going to hopefully be posting 4 to 5 videos a week, plus streaming hopefully multiple times a week. So that's going to do it for me. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you all in the next one.